Hi guys, Tom here again, and it's time for another video. Today the topic I want to talk about is another question I get asked often about, and that is the subject on fat burner supplements. Okay, so from the get-go, there's a massive misconception behind fat burners, that it's a supplement, or they are supplements, shall I say, that you can take them and pretty much sit on your arse and do nothing and they will burn fat. And this just isn't the truth at all, right? So, quick lowdown: how you lose weight. Pretty simple. We all know it consciously. It's not a hard topic. You want to reduce your calories, which is through the consumption of food, and you want to get more exercise. That is the two basic principles when it comes to losing weight. That's if in extreme cases, whether you're obese, 600 pounds, and even to like high level athlete levels. So no matter the case, that is the fundamentals to practice are those two things. Now you can obviously achieve it by one or the other, either eating less or doing more. But the ideal situation is doing a little bit of both because it's just more realistic. Either one is not sustainable on its own, so it's better to get a combination of both, right? So that's in my opinion anyway, and a lot of the science suggests it's the best way to achieve results. It's just because it's like, some days you're going to eat more than others, but you can achieve the deficit still by being more active, right? And vice versa. You can eat less, and if you're not going to be active, you can kind of create a deficit still that way. So when they talk about like you need to be in a calorie deficit, that basically means you need to be in an energy deficit by one of those two ways. There you go. Super simple, right? So if you're ever confused about how to lose weight, now you know. And if you want to put on weight, it's the opposite. But we're not on that topic today. But today we're going to talk about fat burner supplements. Okay. Am I a big fan of them? Yes. But the only problem I have with it is because they have this bad label towards them. Again, it's the fact that they're not really there to burn fat, if that makes sense. That cannot be achieved, unfortunately, because if they did, everyone would be taking these and it would work, right? But what they should be called, I just don't like the name how they're called fat burners. What really they should be called is they should be called fat mobilizers. Okay, which is a different term, right? So fat mobilizing. Some of the ingredients do have, or some supplements do have properties where they do mobilize fat, where basically they release fat. They're easy. How can I explain this? They basically release the fat cells a lot easier, if that makes sense. So they're a tool to be able to use. But again, if you don't create the deficit, like I just mentioned a minute ago, no fat burner supplement's ever going to help you. So you need to practice that, and then, like, say if you get into a point where you're hitting a plateau, this is where the mobilizers can really come in. If you get into that stubborn areas, let's say, they're really effective for that. So it's basically though they're nothing really fancy ingredients wise, but straight into it. Number one is green tea extract. Okay, so green tea extract is, as you know, it's a tea, so you can drink it. The only problem with drinking it is, one, a lot of people don't like it. I myself, I do quite enjoy a cup. And two, the dosage is quite high when it comes to like drinking, let's say. What I mean by that is you need to get the benefits from green tea. You need to be drinking at least maybe anywhere from between 5 to 10 cups a day. So it's quite a lot, Sometimes a lot of people just can't hack that. If you can, that's the best way to have it. But green tea extract in capsule form allows you to have a concentrated dose of green tea, meaning you can have the same amount in a capsule form and it'll be equivalent to like 10 cups. So which is really good, really strong. But off the note really quick is some people got to be careful with green tea because some people have a genetic determinism, unfortunately, where it attacks the liver. You don't know this until you get tested for it. So it's just to be cautious there, just to let you guys know if you are going to experiment, just to keep that in mind. And it's best to take it on like a full stomach if you do. Let's say sometimes having food with green tea helps a lot of people. Some people feel a bit nauseous when taking green tea, but either way, if you're going to take it, you want to take anywhere from about 300 to 500 milligrams. That is the optimal dose, and you want to be looking for 98% polyphenols and 45% EGCG. Okay, so that's the ultimate. That's the ultimate ratio, in my opinion. And a lot of people would agree with that. That basically means it's standardized. You're looking for something that's always standardized, right? When it comes to supplements, so green tea, that's one of them, right? The next one, super simple, caffeine, which you'll find in most generic fat burner supplements. Caffeine is a really good fat mobilizer. Again, they mobilize fat, and I'll explain what mobilizing fat is in a minute. I forgot to say that, right? So let me just say caffeine, right? So caffeine, again, it's the natural form is always, in my opinion, the best. I feel like it doesn't have, if you can have the slow release, which is great if you can get that in a capsule form. Sometimes you can find all these ingredients in one supplement, let's say. But caffeine is another good one. Nothing more to it. Caffeine, you want to push for anywhere from, but depending on the person. Some people are really good at mobilizing caffeine. Some people aren't. So you've got to be play around with the numbers a little bit. Anywhere from I prefer like the 200 milligrams. Some people can do 100 milligrams upwards. And again, a perfect blend for me was around 300 milligrams. And I like two forms of it, either through caffeine, through coffee bean, being the source of caffeine, that with Infinergy or dicaffeine malate, which is slow release caffeine, so it doesn't heat your system too quick, right? So if you get a blend of those two together, best of both worlds, in my opinion. Some people could take that a little less and feel it, but I quite have a high tolerance of caffeine. So, but again, there's something that it keeps you alert. There's some good benefits to caffeine, and mobilizing fat is one of them. Okay, so that's caffeine. And I'll go through all these and I'll explain what mobilizing is in a minute, right? So the next one you want to be looking for is cayenne pepper. Yeah, believe it or not, cayenne pepper is in the form of Capsimax, which is the registered trademark. The difference is with Capsimax, it's a super concentrated form of cayenne pepper, meaning you need less. Super simple. If you're going to have either way, if you're going to have Capsimax, it just means you only need anywhere from, I'd say, the good higher dose of the 50 milligrams up. Somebody could take more than that. 50 milligrams is a good number, if you ask me. And if you're going to have cayenne pepper that isn't Capsimax, you want the higher end of like 200, in my opinion, milligrams to counteract the concentration dose, if that makes sense. So Capsimax is just the registered trademark for cayenne pepper. That what they've done is they've just made it super concentrated so it works more efficiently. But when you're looking for, say, Capsimax, it's standardized to, say, 4% capsinoids. So it basically means like heat ratio. How many? Like a 40,000 heat ratio is a good one as well. That's another standardized you want to be looking for. Again, this is all stuff you should look for if you're going to buy one or experiment with one. Okay, so that's the next one. So then the one after that is N-acetyl L-carnitine, HCl, if you want a good form of it. L-carnitine is another good one. It's a bit controversial. I like it myself, but there's only one problem is L-carnitine requires a lot of carbohydrates for it to work properly. We're talking like simple carbohydrates. The reason we need this is because the carnitine needs that binding agent, which carbohydrates allow that for. So, but you need like the higher end of like 90 grams. that's a lot. So it may counteract the benefits of the fat mobilizing. You know what I mean? If you have that many carbohydrates and you're on like a low carb diet, it's just not really going to work. But I do like taking this anyway, just because it makes me feel good. I feel like I get better blood flow with it for some reason when I've tried it on its own. Because a lot of these ingredients I like to try singly, because I'm a bit like that. I like to see how they work on their own until I have them in a blend. So I found that anywhere from a gram up to 2 grams in a dose, it works really effectively. I find like I just get better blood flow and stuff like that. So I do think it does have those properties, but it's, again, the science suggests you need them simple carbohydrates just to drive that L-carnitine into the muscle and to really mobilize the fat to make it work efficiently. Yep, so again, that's another one. The next one is something called Grains of Paradise, and you're looking for 12.5% of B-paradol. Okay, so this is another cool herb that actually works by making thermogenesis in the body, and again, mobilizing fat. If you're going to supplement with that, again, you want about 40 milligrams, in my opinion, to get the really good effects of the mobilizing effects. That's another good one to keep in your arsenal. And another good one, but this one is a bit up for debate, and that is the ingredient yohimbine. Yohimbine is from the yohimbe bark extract, which is like a tree. It's from the bark of the tree, and what they've done is they've extracted that from the tree. I personally like it a lot, but again, this one's up for debate because it depends on the country. Here in the US, completely legal to take, but however, in other countries, it is they're sort of banned in some countries. So I don't know why it's deemed dangerous. The only thing about that is you got to be careful about that is because it's a stimulant, so it's going to make you again. It's going to drive alertness and probably make you shake a little bit if you're not used to it. It's like it's a high form stimulant, so you got to be careful with that one. But that is one ingredient that's been proven to take fat cells and really mobilize the fat. So yohimbine, or in that one, if you're going to have yohimbine, you want maybe the higher dose. Some people, you have to really start off low. I would start low, then build that to see how you get on, just to be cautious there. If yohimbine is too much, you can do one called alpha yohimbine, which is just as effective. It's another form of it that's a little bit weaker, but I like it a lot because you can have a lot less dose, or you can have a higher dose and it not make you get the jitters. Some people find with the yohimbine they get the jitters and stuff and have that really uncomfortable feeling. But if you're going to have either, anywhere from 2 milligrams up to maybe 5 milligrams of each. But again, start off real low if you're going to try it. The good thing about that is how it works is it works with something called A5 receptors, which is an antagonist. It kind of that's what helps release fat cells. Basically, I'm not go too deep into it, but that's all you need to know. That basically takes the fat cells and then puts it back into the bloodstream, and really helps oxidize it. Right. So alpha yohimbine has been proven to do that. There's been a study where they took soccer players. This is important to note. They took soccer players. The study suggests that they took how many of them, and they took around 18 milligrams of yohimbine a day, and they all lost fat. But it's important to bear in mind these people are already in great shape, if that makes sense. So it's probably no good for beginners, let's say, or if you're extremely overweight. It's a time where you're already in the flow of things. You're looking for that next step, let's say. So just be cautious of that. That was just really quick. I wanted to just mention that just to show I'm not pulling this out of nowhere, but I don't want to go too deep into it, right? But that's all the ones I want to mention on here. Another good one, a good app, because of way you can create the obviously when I mentioned before, creating a deficit through less food. A lot of fat burners contain appetite suppressants as well as thermogenic ingredients. That's what it's doing. Is thermogenics. It's like increasing your calorie burning or suppressing your appetite. So one good one is Chromium. Chromium's really good. Chromium's really on about 400 mcgs for that. It basically just helps you feel full. That's what these appetite suppressants do. That's my favorite one. Chromium. I won't really take any others. But either way, moving on, I've got a couple of more ingredients for you. Another one, synephrine, right? An ingredient called synephrine, which is from bitter orange. You've probably seen that. Like I say, all these are on like most of generic fat burners. The good ones will contain good dose, right? So bitter orange extract is a good one. Another good one in the form of synephrine. There was an ingredient years ago called epinephrine. I think it's called epinephrine, which was one of the only ingredients on the planet that actually burned fat. It burned fat, but then they made it illegal. They put it. Well, it's not illegal. Well, you have to get prescribed it. Shall I say? Sorry. So that was one of the ones that actually really worked, but there was a lot of deaths on it apparently. So needed more regulation, so to speak. But the next one that was closely similar to that was synephrine from bitter orange. Not as strong, but in my opinion, pretty good. Still acts the same way, just a lot weaker form. So it's another one to experiment with. The last one I want to say, which is very underrated, in my opinion, and that's cocoa bean extract. In the form, if you can, one that's coming up really good in studies recently is cocobuterol. Right, so I don't know if you've ever heard of obviously enhancements. There's one called clenbuterol, which is a drug that is illegal, and I would not recommend it. Me as myself, I'm a natural bodybuilder, so you can't really touch those, and I won't want to either personally. But the closest thing natural next to that, what people don't realize, is cocoa bean extracts. in the form of theobromine. So when you're looking for another good fat burner or fat mobilizing ingredient, look for cocoa bean extract, theobromine or theobroma. You want to look for anywhere from 20% up. I say higher than 20. Look for higher, the standardization of 20% if you can, but 20% is like the minimum, I'd say. But sometimes if you get stronger than that, better. So I think cocoa butyrol is like they've called it obviously that. So that's the closest natural supplement you can take that works the same way. That's why chocolate gets its dark chocolate specifically gets the benefits from is in the form of theobromine, which is another reason why pets should not be taking like chocolate, is because of the theobromine. That's the toxicity, and that's why your dogs and cats shouldn't be touching chocolate at all, because of the theobromine. So yeah, just a little bit of information for you there. It's not the chocolate, it's the theobromine that's toxic to animals. So that's why you can get like chocolate for animals. They've took the theobromine out of that so they can have that safely. So yeah, if you're going to have that, please make sure you do not give it to your pet, whatever you do. Make sure if you're going to, make sure it's the safe one that's regulated from a pet store for pets. All right. So, but they're basically my favorite ones. They're the ones that I've experimented with myself and used as a natural sort of bodybuilder, natural forms. So when I mentioned before, real quick, I'm going to end this now on this note. I mentioned obviously that they work by fat mobilizing. So what that means is real quick. So these should be called fat mobilizers, not fat burners. So what they do is they take fat from the fat cells when you take these ingredients, let's say, and they put them back into the bloodstream. And that basically means when you obviously take these and then, like, say you do cardio 30 minutes or an hour later, the fat will be oxidized much more quickly. Okay, so especially with those stubborn fat cells, and that's basically how they work. Mobilizing is that's what that means. They mobilize the fat out of the cells and put them back into the bloodstream. So when people take these supplements, obviously there's a whole terminology for this. So you take a supplement, and then the fat gets released into the blood, and then it's ready to be oxidized. The problem is if it's not oxidized, you just sit on your ass and you don't go do exercise or cardio. Basically, the fat cells circulate in the blood, and then they go right back into the fat cells again. So this terminology is called reestification. If you want to look it up, that's what it's called for fancy words, where the fat goes back into the blood and then back into the fat cells again. They just go back in. So if it's not oxidized, it doesn't work. So again, they go hand in hand. Okay, so that's pretty much about that on fat burners. So if you want to experiment with them, they're the ones. Again, just be cautious that some of them are going to, they may have some potential side effects, like anything, if you're going to experiment with them. But there's only one more ingredient I would recommend, which is highly what's the word? Highly underrated, and that is fiber. Yes, soluble fiber to be particular. There's two forms of fiber, just to finish this video up. There's soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. So insoluble fiber is the one that helps you flow more, if that makes sense. Helps you have a nice solid flow. So you get that through, grains and all that sort of stuff, And the one you want is the soluble fiber. So the soluble fiber is one that keeps you healthy. It's the one that has cholesterol carriers, helps release take cholesterol out of the body, and then you can eliminate it through the waste, through bile salts in the liver. So real quick, but yeah, soluble fiber helps you keep full and satiated. Gives that feeling of fullness again. Yeah, that's another trick what people don't know about. Real quick, gonna end this near 20-minute mark. So yeah. If you have, say, a high carbohydrate meal in the form of junk food, let's say, what you can do when you know you're going to have this meal, this is a super simple tip, right? But you can do. If you know you're going to have something really starchy, like say you have some French fries and some other rubbish food, let's say, and you take a supplement form of soluble fiber, it's quite inexpensive. You take anywhere from 5 grams to 10 grams. Before that meal, say 30 minutes, you actually turn that meal into a slow release now. You're basically slowing the release of insulin spiking, basically. Just a little tip you can do there. Just be careful if you've never taken it before. It might just give some upset stomach for a while, just because it's so concentrated. It's a concentrated form of fiber. But that's just another tip you can do, just so it doesn't, again, the problem is with these junk food is that they spike the insulin real badly. So what you can do is try and bypass that a little bit, not much, but it's just a little tip you can do, a little trick. Like I say, 30 minutes before that meal, you can take that, You scoop it into a cup of water, drink it, and then 30 minutes later you can have your food. It won't spike your insulin so much. So yeah, a little trick for you there. So, but obviously you don't want to be doing that all the time, but you don't be eating junk food all the time either. But if you are going to, that's a good little tip you can do. This again, hopefully not gonna it won't spike your insulin too much or raise your blood sugar too quick. So, but either way, I hope this is helpful. Leave your any comments, any other tips that you recommend as well. Let's get a chat going if you feel like it. Yeah, and I hope this helps you, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.